Nigeria remains Africa's biggest aviation market with a population of about 160 million people. And air travel not only connects people, but it connects economies. Four years ago, the then Aviation Minister Stella Odua took on the challenge of remodeling the nation's terminals. With the exercise designed in phases, the implementation centered on the refurbishment of 11 airports. Starting with the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, the terminal was expanded on the D&E wings and extended a few meters forward. 4 years after, the federal government says this rehabilitation work is up for concessioning.
What we're hearing is 4 airports. Now, we have 22 airports, if I'm correct, 22 airports. If you give away the 4 airports that bring the revenue in, and I want to believe that the Airports Authority would agree with what I'm saying, that the bigger airports service the smaller airports because of the amount of traffic that goes into the smaller airports as against the running costs of the smaller airports. So I would want to say that a model that would work, unless the government's plan is to make the smaller airports private airstrips for the state. But if you want all the airports to be functional, I would expect that anybody put it up in regions. So anybody that decides to take up the Lagos concession should be able to take on Ibadan, take on Ilorin, take on Akure Airport, take on Benin. Likewise, Abuja in the north central, Port Harcourt, the southeast, and Kano takes up the north.
An industry participant believes this is a step that has to be taken carefully. On the foreign scene, the Malaysian Transport Minister says more MH370 debris needed to be found to determine what happened to the missing aircraft. Leo said 2 pieces of debris discovered in South Africa and the Mauritian island of Rodriguez are almost certainly from the missing Malaysian Airlines MH370 jetliner.
How to make a better world.
Flight MH370 disappeared in March 2014 with 239 passengers and crew on board shortly after taking off from Kuala Lumpur bound for Beijing in one of the world's greatest aviation mysteries. Investigators believe someone may have deliberately switched off the plane's transponder before diverting it thousands of miles off course out over the Indian Ocean.
I must say that it's important we find more debris, more wreckage, so that we can actually analyze it and find the cause of the incident or the accident. Let us go through this 120,000 square kilometers area, and we will have a meeting sometime in June or July before the end of the search, before the end of 120,000 square kilometer search. We're going to organize a tripartite meeting between Malaysia, China, and Australia to chart the future of this search. Yeah.
The Australian-led underwater search, the most expensive ever conducted, is expected to be completed by the middle of 2016. Finally, on Newsflash, Ryanair says it will cut the amount it's investing in Britain if the country votes to leave the European Union in next month's referendum.
This investment in Britain is a direct result.
The Irish low-cost airline, Europe's largest by passenger numbers, flies 40 million of its 100 million plus passengers a year to and from the United Kingdom and has its largest hub at London's Stansted Airport. O'Leary said earlier this week that the firm would open a new European training centre at Stansted, creating around 450 new jobs in Britain as part of the $1.4 billion it invests in the country. However, at an event with British Finance Minister George Osborne, O'Leary said jobs and investment could be put in jeopardy if Britain votes to leave the 28-member bloc on June 23.
And this investment in Britain is a direct result of Britain being a member of the EU. Let me put it simply. If Britain isn't a member of the EU, these investments, these jobs will be going to other countries. And that's why Ryanair is campaigning so strongly for Britain to remain in the EU. If Britain leaves the single market, Britain may be forced out of the open skies regime, and airfares and the cost of holidays will rise. That's not a speculation, that's a certainty.
Taking a trip from one country to another is fun and educative. But first things first, you must have a travel document, the Nigerian passport. Unfortunately, it's not something that can be bought from a shopping mall or the roadside market. In case you don't know, the Nigerian Immigration Service is the agency saddled with the responsibility of providing you with one. And that is what brings us the Lagos Headquarters Passport Office, Ikoyi. Security is key, and from what you can see, every individual has to pass through 3 different stages of scrutiny before getting access to the main premises. From there, applicants begin the procedure. The first is the acquisition process, where officers call in applicants, check their file, confirm the online payment, register the file, and then send it to the next stage. Then the files are brought to these officers at this point.
Go and enter there. Mention your surname, please.
In this long room, staff and officers perform different duties. First are those in charge of online verification payment. Immigration also confirms the payment the second time. Confirming that all the procedures are complete, then a signature, a stamp, and seal. The processing then begins with the applicants appearing for a face-to-face interaction. Then the verification room to enrollment and scanning room, where capturing processes begin for reissue and a fresh passport. Here, applicants' data is recorded into the system with the basic biometric capture. Aside from the active population, minors are also served here. We're not done yet. Here is the finishing room, where the quality control, personalization, and lamination is carried out. Finally, the ball stops at the collection point, where individuals come in to pick up their passports, and the officer confirms if it's the same person in the system. A final thumbprint is essential.
The significance of this thumbprinting is that it activates the passport. It makes it live, bring life into the passport. Otherwise, it remain dormant. And that is ICAO specification. And ICAO also help us to establish help desks when you are facing any problem when producing passport. Sometimes, as you want to approve online here, the network will not be forthcoming. And you stay here for a day looking for network to not forthcoming.
Well, obtaining this travel document indeed has a long chain, but it's worth the wait after all.
It's a cutting call on this edition, and our feedback platform is always open for you. We do welcome your thoughts and suggestions. I'm Bukola Joe Ketumbi. See you next week.